Yes, so
Okay,
much better.
great. Sorry?
So much better now.
Okay, okay. I think there was some issue because of which I was not able to share. Okay, now this will help you better. Okay, so currently I am discussing about ISO IEC 27000 family of standards. Can you see that?
Yes.
All right, great. So, what I'm discussing in this is requirements first. So, under requirements, there comes in three standards that we have discussed: 27006, 27001, and 27,701. So these are the standards based on requirements. Like these standards tells you about the requirements of the systems that like for example 27,001 is information security management systems. It tells the requirements about that. Similarly, 27,701 is about privacy information management system. It tells the requirements about that. And then there are these five standards, and the one that we are going to focus on is 27,005. If you see here, it's highlighted. These standards are talks about the general guides. So these are like the general guides. So under this family of 27,000, in 27,002 comes the information security controls. In 27,003, if you see ISMS implementation. Similarly, 27,004, maybe you can just make a note of these things, though these all will not be important for you. Uh, the main thing is going to be 27,005, where we're going to discuss about, how to manage information security risk. But at the same time, since these all comes from the same family of standards, you can have a little just you can have a little note about like what all it does, like what all focuses on the requirements and what standards focuses on as a general guide. And then there are some industry based these standards like industry guides. So for example 27,011, if we talk about it, focuses on the telecommunication organizations, like it has standards related to that specific industry. Similarly, ISO 27,799 focuses on health informatics. So you can just keep a brief note about this. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Then we can just discuss a little bit about these as well, like what all it includes. Like as I told you, 27,000 gives a general overview of ISMS. So what is ISMS? ISMS is Information Security Management Systems. These are there in different standards, and with addition to that, it provides some common terminologies and definitions. And as you can see, you can download these also. So just for if you want to like go deep into this, you can download these and then maybe you can learn for that. Similarly, there are other standards that we discussed, like 27,001, which is specifies the requirements of establishing, implementing, maintaining, and continually improving the ISMS. So these all are relatable, but the one that we are going to focus on will be ISO IEC 27005, which provides guidelines for managing information security risk in accordance with the requirements of ISO IEC 27001. So I hope you can connect now. How is this relatable? So 27,001 talks about the requirements, and 27,005 provides the guidelines to manage those information security risks. So that is how 27,001 is the most relatable to 27,005. maybe you can just have a keep a note about it.
Okay.
Yeah, great. So, moving on to the next thing is the development of how these standards, family of standards have developed over the years. When was it started? So, if you can see in the chart that is there, uh, so it was started in BS 7799 when the code of practice was published. So it is all about the we are going to discuss a little bit about the history behind the development of these standards. So it is 7799 BS, and BS here stands for the British standards. So it was developed in 1995. So this is started in 1995 when the first the British Standard Institution was the one who published a set of controls. A code of practice was published. It is called BS 7799. And similarly, after that, we see in 2000, the ISO IEC 17,799 was published, and it was related to Code of Practice for Information Security Management. So it was related to information security. Then in 2002, if you see here, BS 7799 second 2 was published, and it was the specification of information security management systems. Then after that, 2005, the 17,799 was revised. So ISO IEC 27001 was the information security management system requirements was published. So the one we were just discussing before this, which is the most relatable to 2000 to 27,005, is this one, 27,001, which was published in year 2005. After that, in 2007, if you see, ISO IEC 27006, this is also related to requirements, but this is for bodies providing audit and certifications of ISMS. This was published. Then 2008 to 2012, some other standards of the same family were developed and published. After that, in 2013, the standard of 27,001 and ISO IEC 27,002 were revised. So, if you remember, in 2005, the 27,001 standard was published, and then in 2013, this standard was revised. And then finally in 2022, again, these standards were revised. So these are the important dates that you can keep a note, that when these standards were published, when it was revised, and when it started, of course, the code of practice. I hope you have taken a note, or you want some more time.
No, no, no. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay, then there is some brief notes that we have already discussed. Now, for starters, we are going to discuss with the 27,001 standard. So, what is actually is, so this as we have discussed that this is standards, it specifies the requirements for establishing and maintaining the ISMS, which are the information security management systems. So in this standard, basically the requirements that are expressed are with the verb. So if you can just anytime go to the ISO website and download these standards to have a better understanding that how these looks and how the things are explained in the standards. Here we will just discuss it in a little brief. So we'll not go like too deep in that. We'll discuss that in brief. So these are some main points that you can keep a note for further maybe some exercises, or it will help you in your further examination. So one more important point is that it is applicable to all organizations regardless of their size, type, or industry in which they operate. So if you remember, I told you that there are different ISO standards for different industries, some applicable to some, and then there are some which will not applicable to some particular industries. But this standard, which we are discussing, 27001, will be applicable to all organizations, whether any industry or what whether any size of the industry, like if even if it is a small industry or a bigger one, this one will be applicable. And here we're talking about annexure A. So there is one annexure that maybe I will share with you, that you can go through, and we will discuss later in coming sessions as well. So it contains 93 information security controls. We can discuss this later. This is related to the annexure. So the last point that is here to remember is that organizations can obtain certifications against this standard. So as this is like these ISO standards are universal or international standards. So if a company, if an organization has these standards, then of course the credibility of that organization increases. So as we discussed before, if a company does not have these important standards or licenses, things, then the credibility goes down for them. So similarly, for this standard, organizations can obtain the certification. Then there are clauses in these standards. So the here the clause in 27001, the clause 0.1, the general clause is like a brief of the clause is given here. Maybe you can just take a minute and go through it. So this will like help you understand why like what is there in this standard basically. So if we just give it a simple read, that this document has been prepared to provide requirement of, as we discussed previously, establishing, implementing, maintaining, and continuously improving an ISMS, which is Information Security Management System. So this only talks about the requirements. That what are the requirements that is there in order to establish, implement, and improve the system. The adoption of an information security management is a strategic decision for an organization. The establishment and implementation of organizations' information security management system is influenced by of course, the organization's needs and objectives, security requirements, or the organizational process that is used, as the size and structure of the organization. So basically, this gives you a little brief about what the clause, the 0.1 clause talks about this ISO standard. But if you just have to say it in one sentence, you can just say that it provides requirements for establishment, implementing, maintaining the ISMS system. And then maybe you can go through to understand it better. There are some things more. Like if you see this para, this is also like the important one, which talks about the information security management system, that it preserves the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information. So, in our further session, in this session only, later we'll discuss about these three. These are the important things: confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information by applying a risk management process, and gives also it gives confidence to interested parties that risks are adequately managed. So that is how ISO standards help and gives the credibility to the organization that I discussed previously. So, since we discussed about the ISO 27001, the next is, of course, the main which we are going to discuss is 27005. Okay, so we discussed that 27001 was can be obtained by the organizations, that the certification, but in 27005 this organizations cannot obtain this certification against this standard. And also, if you just see the differences here, in this the guidelines are expressed with the verb should, and if you remember here, we discussed that the clauses are expressed with the verb shall. So these are the little differences that you can see in these two same family of standards, but different standard at the same time. So what does it do? What is the basic of this standard? So the standard basically provides the guidelines for conducting information security risk management activities. Now we are finally discussing about the risk management and our standards, that is going to be our focus. So the previous one was talking about the requirement of establishing, improving, continuously improving the ISMS systems. And this one is like a guideline, like how to conduct information security risk management activities, and how to comply with the requirements of ISO 27001. So there were some requirements that are there in 27001. So basically, this 27005 talks about how to comply with those requirements. And that is how these two are quite relatable. I hope you just note down the important points here for your just maybe a refresher or a revision when you just do it later. Okay. So then also 27005 is supplements the guidance of 27003, and it also supports the guidelines of ISO 31000. So no need to get worried seeing so many ISO standards. If there is any point that you want me to stop, or maybe you have any doubt, you can just raise your hand and we can discuss that. And all the standards that I'm just talking about here, we will discuss about that. So there will be no room for any doubt, I'm sure. So if we
Thank
talk
you.
about, yeah. So we're talking about 27005 still, and currently we are talking about the clause 1, which is scope. So if I just go back here in 27001, here we discuss the clause 0.1, general. So this was the first clause of this standard. It was general, which describes a little bit about this standard. Similarly, now we're discussing about the first clause, which is scope. Like, what is the scope of this standard? So, basically, if you can see here, there are mainly two scopes, like 2 points. So, which this documents provide guidance. So, this provides assistance to organizations to fulfill the requirements of 27001, concerning actions to address information security risks. So whatever the requirements that are mentioned in ISO IEC 27001, this ISO 27005 fulfills those requirements. So this is a guidance document, basically, like how to fulfill those requirements. Then the next important point is this also assists organizations to perform information security risk management activities. Specifically, the information security risk assessment and treatment. So it helps organization to uh, to perform those activities, like first to understand if there are any risk related threats, then to perform the activities like what can be the solution. So there are step by step, but here we are discussing about the scopes. So these two are the main scope about this document. Also, point to be noted here that this document is applicable to all organizations, regardless of type, size, or sector. Similar to 27,001, if you remember. I'll just go back and show you. This also says that this can be obtained by like said any organization, and here if you remember we have discussed that it is applicable to all organizations regardless of their size, type, or industry in which they operate. So these both are similar. For this also it is applicable to all organizations. So that was about the to the 27,005. Now, if we talk about the structure, since 27,005 is our focus, we will discuss about the structure of ISO IEC 27,005. What we are going to do is there are different clauses that you can see. Here are clause 5. So it just gives a little context about what all clause talks about what. So clause 5 of ISO IEC 27,005 is related to information security risk management. And then there is clause 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So from 5 to 10 clauses are mentioned here. That you can just keep a note that what clause talks about what. Like clause 6 here talks about the context establishment. Clause 7 is about information security risk assessment process. Clause 8 is about information security risk treatment process. So like clause 7 talks about the assessment, like how to assess the risk, like what is the risk related to that particular in that process, or maybe in any process or in any organization. And then there is clause 8 which talks about the treatment, like what can be the treatments for that risk that we have assessed. Similarly, clause 9 is about the operation. Clause 10 is related to leveraging related ISMS processes. So there are different processes. Then which one will be the suitable? We can just read more about it. As I told you, it is consist of 10 clauses and one annexure. In coming sessions, I will discuss the annexure with you as well. And so if you can see here, we have only clause 5 to clause 10. So clause 1 to clause 4 actually provides the general information on the standard. Whereas if you see clause 5 introduces the like information security risk management process and cycles. And clause 6 to 10, if you see, it elaborates on those activities. So to just conclude it, we can say clause 1 to clause 4 provides general information. Maybe you can just keep a note like that, that ISO 27005 consists of 10 clauses. From clause 1 to clause 4 provides general information. Clause 5 introduces the information security risk management process. And clause 6 to clause 10 elaborates on the information security risk management activities. And other than these 10 clauses, it has an annexure which provides examples of techniques that support these processes that we uh, analyze and assess and find the treatment in the clauses. So I'll just take a pause here. So maybe you can write it down properly. And if you have anything to discuss, we can do that. I hope you are following me till now. We understood the
Yes, yes.
clauses.
I
Okay.
write it down.
Okay, great. Thank you. So that is about an overview of the clauses. This is actually an important thing to understand in ISO 27005. Next thing we are going to discuss is structure of risk management activities that are there in clause from clause 7 to 10 of the same standard that we are discussing currently, which is 27005. So what is the structure? Like, how does it work? How does the risk management activities work? So to understand that, here is a very simple chart kind of here, like the flow chart, if you can see. So it is, how does it work? So we gives an input, and what it does, it identifies any required information to perform the activity. So how does these activities, like what is the structure of these activities? So first step is input. Second step is action. What action? Action is action to describe the activity, like what the activity looks like, to just give a little information. Then third is the trigger. What kind of trigger is this? So it gives, when we give it any input, it does the action and then it gives a trigger. Like for here, like for example, it is given here, for example, because of a change within the organization or according to a plan or a change in the external context of the organization. So it provides guidance on when to start the activity. So it gives a triggers like that, and then it gives the a final output. Output like how it identifies any information derived after performing the activity, as well as any criteria that such output should satisfy. So first step input, then action, then trigger, then output, and at the end guidance. It provides the guidance. If you remember, I have been talking about that this is a general guidance standard. So that is this last step of this, that it provides the guidance on performing the activity, keyword, and key concepts. So this is an important structure of the risk management activity. You can just note down the points here, or maybe you can go through it later and just try to understand this. And if there is anything, we can discuss that as well. So input, action, trigger, output, and guidance. That is how it is. The structure. So we've discussed about 27005. Now we are moving to ISO 31000. So ISO 31000 is also related to these, specifically 27005. And how is it related? We will discuss in this particular slide. So the standard basically provides guidelines for managing risk faced by organizations in any industry or sector. So this is also relatable because it is also related to risk management. It provides the guidelines to risk management. And this is not only, any particular industry, it is also for different industries or sectors. And if you see, it is also similar to 27,001 and 27,005 because it is applicable to any type of risk, regardless of its nature or consequences. Also, the third point, if you can see, that organizations cannot obtain these certifications against this standard. So just to give you a recap, I'll go to 27,001. Can you tell me if organizations can obtain that certification? If you remember?
Sorry, what?
We have discussed 27,001, 27,005. So, do you remember if organizations can obtain this 27,001 certification?
Yes, any organization can take it, no matter what
Yeah,
size, what type.
great. Yeah, you are right. So, organizations can obtain certification against this standard, against 27,001. Similarly, organizations cannot again. And now, since we're discussing 31,000, and here we can see organizations cannot obtain. So out of these three, only one organizations can obtain the certification. So as we discussed the scope of 27,001 and 27,005, similarly, we are going to discuss the scope of 31,000 also, that how is it relatable and how is it different from the other two. So this is definitely relatable because this is also related to risk management, which is 27,005 as well. So this basically provides a guideline on managing risk faced by organizations. And what kind of risk? It can be any type of industry specific or sector specific risk. So if you see here, this document provides a common approach to managing any type of risk and is not any industry or sector specific. And this can be used throughout the life of the organization and can be applied to any activity, including decision makings at all levels. So here we are not going very in detail about these standards, but just to understand a brief of it, like what it basically means. Like 27,001 is for the requirements. 27,005 tells about the guidelines, the general guidelines about information security, risk management. And 31,000 talks about the guidelines of risk management and overall. And it is not industry or sector specific. Then there is this important figure, if you see, or maybe we can just take a look into this. How is the structure of ISO 31,000? So it is consists of these three important factors. This is the framework, how leadership and commitment. So these are the two principles of this. And this is the process, like how this process works. So for this, the clause 5.1, which is a general clause, if we could read about this, the purpose of this framework is basically to assist the organization in integrating risk management into significant activities and functions. The effectiveness of this risk management will depend on its integration into the governance of the organization, including the decision making. So this definitely requires supports from stakeholders, particularly top management. And if we just read more into this framework that is given here, it says that these components that are mentioned there, if you just take a look at this, it says the components of the framework and the way in which they work together should be customized to the needs of the organization. So if we see how the value creation and protection thing works here, so these are the value creation and protection factors, you can say. Integration, structured and comprehensive. It should be customized. It should be inclusive. It should be dynamic with the best available information. It should be human and cultural factors. It should include basically, and the continual improvement is there. Then how does this process work? So there is a scope, context, and criteria first, which is defined. The process is defined firstly by the scope. What is the context of that? What is the criteria? Then the risk assessment happens. Like there are activities that assess the risk. Then the risk is identified. After that, next step is risk analysis. And then the last would be evaluation in this particular process. After that, after evaluating the risk, the next step is risk treatment. After risk treatment, the recording and reporting happens. So this is a simple workflow kind of structure here, that how this process works. Then if we have a like take a look at the framework, how does what is the role of the leadership and commitment here? So integration, like what are the important factors here? Design, implementation, evaluation, and then finally improvement. That is how it works. So these are the important, I think, and process is actually important. So you can just take a note of the steps that first the scope, context, and criteria is decided and under to be understand. First is scope, context, and criteria. The next step is risk assessment, like we assess the risk, how much risk is there, what all risks are there. Then the identification happens. After that, we analyze whatever data or whatever information we collect. We finally analyze that. After analyzing, the evaluation happens. And once we have the evaluation, we can do the risk treatment, and basically which is called risk management. Then as you can see here, it says the organization should evaluate its existing risk management practices and processes. Also, it should evaluate if there are any gaps, and it should also address those gaps within the framework. Like here, we have discussed implementation, evaluation, improvement. So these are the framework of basically the structure of ISO 31000. If just go previous, what are the structures we have discussed about the previous standards? For example, this one, the structure of 27005. We have discussed input, action, trigger, output, and guidance. And also we discussed about the clauses. Then if we come to the 27001, there was not any proper structure, because this standard is more about the requirements and not about the guidelines or guidance. So I hope you have got a brief of what the structure of 27,005 and the structure of 31,000. Are we clear till now?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay, great. Then this is going to be the last standard that we're going to discuss. After that, we will move to the risk management part of the course. So this is IEC 31,010 standard. This is also an international standard. If also I would just like to take a pause here. If you're thinking this is going too fast, maybe you can take a little break, have some water or something, and then we can start. So you want to take just a 2 minutes break?
Okay, thank you.
This is the last one that we're going to discuss. So this is IEC 31,010. So this is also relatable to those because since we're discussing about risk management, and this provides the guidance on the selection and application of techniques for assessing risk in wide range of situations. So this standard basically tell us about the like which techniques or applications or it helps in selecting those applications which we should use while assessing risk. It is for different type of situations in different processes it is used. So that is how it is important for us to understand a little bit about this standard as well. And as we have discussed about previous standards, this also cannot obtain certification against this standard. I mean, organizations cannot obtain the certification against this standard. So, previously we have discussed about 27,001, where we discussed that organizations can obtain the certification against that. Then 27,005, then we discussed now 30,000, sorry, 31,000. Then this is 31,010. So just to have a quick recap, can you help me with all these four standards where organizations can obtain the certification and where it cannot against this standard? Can you help me with that? Just to make this a little interactive session, I would like your input.
Okay. Just a minute, I'm having a problem. Please.
Sorry.
The screen is minimized and I can't make it big.
Yeah, I will do that. But I hope you're making notes, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe you can just check on that. See, we discussed 27,001, and you told me sometimes back that organizations can obtain certification against that, right?
2000, لا, 27. Yes.
27,001. Okay.
Yes.
So
This can
organizations
obtain.
can obtain against that standard. Then 27,005
Cannot obtain.
cannot obtain. Then we discussed 31,000.
Cannot obtain.
It cannot obtain. And then we are currently on 31,010. Here also, it cannot be obtained. Yeah.
Yes, only
So
27
correct. Only
because it's general
27,000.
and general standards.
Yeah. Requirements. 27,001 has the requirements. So all other three that we have discussed, organizations cannot obtain. And similarly, that we discussed the scope and requirements of previous standards. For this also here, we can just read a little bit about like what is the clause 1, which is a scope. What is the scope of basically this standard? So it provides guidance on the selection and application of techniques for assessing risk. So what does this standard do? It provides us with the guidance and selection, like which all techniques and applications we should use for assessing risk, as we discussed. So, what does these techniques do? These techniques help us in making decisions where there is uncertainty, to provide information about particular risk as a part of risk management process. Also, this document provides summaries of a range of techniques, like different types of techniques. It also reference to other documents where the techniques are described in more detail. So these are the very standard, like very detailed standards actually. Here, what we are reading in is in a brief way. Like what is the overall scope of this? What does this standard tells us? And if we understand this much, that would be more than enough for us. So this is what the IEC 31010 is all about. To
Okay,
just,
just give me 1 minute, please.
yeah, sure.
Try to rejoin the meeting. Yes. Okay. Yes,
Okay,
we
can
can
we
continue
continue?
now. Yeah.
Okay, all right, all right. Okay, so we have discussed the standards and regulatory frameworks. We've discussed the family of standards: 27,000, 27,001, 27,005. And then we've discussed 31,000, and then we have finally discussed the IEC 31,010. And this is all related to the international standards, and these all focuses on the risk management part of it. Some tells us about the requirements, some tells us about the general guidelines, some are focuses on the application of techniques for assessing risk. So these are the parts of it. Maybe you can just remember it like that, in one liners, like what standard does what standards provides us with what. That will help you for your further assessments. Now moving on to the next thing is what we are going to discuss is the relation between these standards, the 27,001, 27,005, and 31,000. As you can clearly see with this flow chart, what does it say that what is the relation in this? So there are some clauses that are relatable. So basically, it is showing us the difference in ISO 2000, 27,005 and ISO 31,000. So 27,005 framework on risk management applied to information security. As we know, it is mostly talking about the risk management that is applied to information security, which is 27,005, while ISO 31,000 is a generic framework on risk management. So that is the basic difference we can tell about 27,005 and 31,000. And point to be noted here, if you see the important note, that organizations seeking certification against 27,001 are not required to establish risk management programs which are based on 27,005 or 31,000. ISO 27,001 states that it is up to organizations to select the risk management method which is appropriate to their context, business activities, management, and operational practices. So basically, it is talking, if any organization is obtaining the certification against 27,001, it is not required for that organization to to use the framework of 31,000 or 27,005. It is totally up to the organizations that what risk management method they want to use. It is not mandatory for them to use any of these two, because it can be used by different organizations. So if it is not in information security, if it is any other particular domain, then they can use the different methodology. This is what it is talking about. Then what we can read further is that based on the ISO 31000 framework, what ISO 27005 explains in detail is how to manage risk within the context of information security. So, the one in which we are going to focus is ISO 27005, which is related to the which is in the context of information security. So that is how uh, it differentiates, because 27005 in deeply talks about the information security risk management, while the other 31000 is generic framework on risk management. So, organizations who establish their risk management program based on 27005 and 31000 can easily address the requirement of ISO 27001 regarding risk management. The clauses it is talking about here, we have discussed further. The important clauses we have already discussed. So this is basically the relation that you can just note down in a point, how 27005 and 31000 is relatable. What is the difference in that? Then, since we have completed the standards that were important to discuss, now we can move to the purpose and advantages of risk management. What is actually the purpose? What do you think are the advantages of risk management? Why do we do risk management after all? Why are there so many standards regarding that? So if you want to just give an answer, maybe in a line, what is your understanding with that? What is the purpose of risk management? Why do organizations follow all these standards? Do you have to say anything? Maybe a line or something?
To prepare for any risk and mitigate the damages.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Correct. So basically, there are a lot of risk involved in different processes these days. If we talk about the risk to the information, so the information security risk management that we are going to study. So there are a lot of information available. For example, there is an organization where there is in its finance team, there is information related to finance is there, and they don't have any risk management process for that. So that is where this things comes, that information security risk management. They need to have a system to secure that information. Otherwise, there is a lot of risk to that. And that is why when these standards come into the picture. So, the purpose of risk management is the creation and protection of value. Value here means anything that is important. What we are studying is, we are going to study is actually information security, but it can be any value. Also, what is the advantage of risk management if I talk about? Is that it improves performance, it encourages innovation, and it supports the achievement of objectives. So, what is the purpose of risk management? Is that it helps in the creation and protection of value. And the advantage of risk management is that it improves, encourage innovation, and support the achievement of objective. So our objective, for example, we have taken the example of the finance team. So what would be the objective? Of course, every organization would want their data to be protected, to be safe. And that is when the main objective is there, to save the data, to protect the data, to protect the information basically. So managing risk is iterative and assist organization in setting a strategy, achieving objectives, and making informed decision is basically what these standards do. Here, it is given for the ISO 31000. So, managing risk is part of governance and leadership, and is a fundamental to how the organization is managed at all levels. So, it is also a part of activities associated with an organization, and it includes interaction with the stakeholders. So I hope you got a gist of what the risk management purpose and what is the advantage of it. This is taken from the ISO 31000 clause 4. So this is important to note, maybe for your further exercise or coursework. It will help you. Now that we are done with the advantages and purpose of risk management, we can see this one. This is the advantages. Like, what is the advantage of 27,005? So, what it actually does. So, there are 4 points to note down here. The number one is it covers the management of information security risk, how it is managed. So first, the risks are identified, like what all information security risks are there. And then this standard covers how to manage those information security risks. Then it can be adapted to diverse organizational structure. As we have discussed before, it can be obtained by any type of company, any type of organization, whether it is a small in size or any different type. So it can be adapted to diverse structures. And third is that it enables the organizations to manage their threats systematically. How is when we go deep into it, we will get to know how does it do that? How does it help in managing the threats of information security risk? Then it promotes conformity to ISO 27001. How does it do that? It is a guideline of the risk management system that uh, that actually helps 27,001, and it confirms the requirements that are mentioned in 27,001. That is what we have discussed previously as well, how it is related. So 27,001 and 27,005 is related, as 27,005 promotes conformity to the ISO 27,001. So these are 4 important points to be noted here, that how and what are the advantages, how is it helpful to have an ISO standard, how and what are the advantages of it. So it is basically it covers the management of information security risk. If we move ahead, we have discussed about the advantages, and then we'll just wrap our section summary here. What we have discussed till now, we have discussed the ISO, how it is published, like what are the standards, how it respond to the market demand, when do we publish ISO, and these are be like how what all stakeholders are involved, And the techniques, it is based on the consensus. We have discussed that. I hope you have taken a point of those important notes. Then we have discussed the ISO 27001, which specifies the requirements of improving the ISMS. We have discussed 27005, which provides guidelines for conducting information security risk, which is our focus basically. Then we have discussed ISO 31000, which provides risk management guidelines and is applicable to any organization, regardless of size or type. This is also we have discussed. Then the next thing we have discussed is IEC 31010, which provides guidance on the selection and application of techniques. And then we have discussed the purpose and advantages of risk management. So, risk management is the creation and protection of value. So, I hope you have got the summary of what we have discussed till now. And I hope you have made some important notes for your reference as well. Do you feel there is anything that we can maybe have a refresher, or you want me to discuss once more for you,
No, it
or is
sounds
it
clear.
clear? It's clear. Okay, great, great. So, at this time, we have a quiz for you, but actually, since this is day one, I am planning to have that quiz in our next session. That is what I have been telling you, that if you are making notes for yourself, this is going to be helpful in your quiz. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me, and then we can move on to the our next section. So for today, we have planned about these three sections. We'll
Uh,
complete these.
I have a question. Are you gonna send me these notes or not?
Actually, to be honest, I'm not sure about it. Let me just discuss this with my team. If I can send you these notes, if I cannot
Because it's
send you the
very
exact
helpful.
notes, sorry.
I said it's very helpful.
I understand. Okay, I will try my best to just give me just allow me some time to just check with my team if I can send you. If not, otherwise I can make you a notes by myself, and definitely I'll share it with you.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, great. Um, so we are moving on to the next section, section three, so what all we are going to discuss in section three is the fundamental concepts and principles of information security risk management. So, since the standard that we are getting trained on is 27,005, and 27,005 is basically focusing on the information security risk management. So, from here, we're going to start the main focus, which is information security risk management. So, we are going to discuss these points in that as we move forward. So what this section is going to provide us is information that will help us gain knowledge in the fundamental concepts of the information security. So if you remember, just sometimes back, I told you about these three important points, that is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. We're going to discuss in deep now information security. I hope you have got a gist of that. Maybe before moving forward, just to make it a little interactive, maybe we can discuss what do you understand by information security, and what is your understanding currently, so that we can have a more interactive sessions as per that. So maybe you can help me with that. What is your current understanding with information security?
Um, in my knowledge, it's based on the CIA triangle and how we can apply it to the information.
Yeah, yeah, the CIA triangle that we just discussed. So information security.
Yes,
I
and
mean,
type of
you have
risk, type of controls.
right. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. You have a fair understanding. Basically, if we just take it into two parts, information and security. So, information is any type of data that we have.
Data. Yeah.
Yeah, it's mostly related to data. And security is how to secure, how to protect that information, how to protect that data that we have. So that is basically the information security. And the triangle that you talked about is definitely CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So this is taken just for your information. This is taken from the ISO 9000 clause 3.8.2 and ISO 27000 clause 3.28. Here, as you see, information is a meaningful data. Of course, not all raw data or anything comes under the information. It should be a meaningful full data. And information security is basically the protection, uh, the security, the preservation of that data, that information, of confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information. So information security is actually determines what information needs to be protected, why it should be protected, how to protect it, and what to protect it from. So it is very important to know that what needs to be protected. So the most sensitive data or some sensitive information which needs to be protected, that has risk, some risk, like if if there is some risk management thing, or if it has a lot of risk involved in that, that is when it is required to be protected, if it has a lot of risk. So it covers all kinds of information, whether it is printed information, it is handwritten, it is transmitted by email or website, or even it is mentioned during conversations. So it is very it is not like something that is only relatable to any one thing. For example, if it is online information, then only it needs to be protected. No, it is all kind of informations. Then organizations can definitely ensure the information security by implementing appropriate policies and controls that are aligned with their objectives, which reduce the risk and threats. So this is the main triangle of information security that we are going to discuss in detail now: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So by confidentiality, what do you mean? So this is taken just for the reference. This is taken from the ISO IEC 27000 clause 3.10, which talks about the confidentiality. So confidentiality, what is that actually? Property that information is not made available or disclosed to unauthorized individuals, entities, or processes. So there are some confidential informations that are not available to everyone, that are not public or not available to unauthorized individuals, or maybe some unauthorized entities. Those are the confidentiality information, like confidential information. So to ensure the confidentiality of information, organizations must ensure that only authorized users have access to the information. So these points are actually very important to be noted here. That what does the requirements of confidentiality? Since these are taken from ISO 27000, and what does ISO 27000 talks about? It talks about the requirements. So these are the requirements of the confidentiality that we are discussing right now. So organizations need to ensure that the information is only to the authorized users. Organizations can implement several practices for that, so that the particular information is secure only to those individuals or process or entities where it is actually required. And how do they do that? There are some systems, there are some methods for that. But and here, if you can see, there are three methods that are mentioned here. First is we use a lot, I mean, we can see it in a lot of things, which is called multi-factor authentication, where it requires authentication from multi-factors. So that require it basically requires user identification and password when accessing any confidential data. So this is one of the method on how organizations can protect their data. Then definitely organizations these days have data access policies. What do you mean by data access policies? Is the policies that who all can access the data, who all will not have the access to it. So this is also the internal policies. These are the internal policies of the organization, and these are not like some standards. So this is something that organizations do follow on their own for the safer side to mitigate the risk. Then there are access controls that provide restrictions on the network access based on the employees' roles and responsibilities. So, for many organizations, they don't provide all the access to everyone, like to all the employees. There are some accesses that are only to some authorized individuals. So, these are the three main practices that organizations usually implement. First is multi-factor authentication, or maybe other authentication methods. Then their data access policy. Next is the access control, like whom all they are giving that access. And since we're talking about this, we have an example here. So if we see this example, it talks about the human resource department. So here the example is related to the human resource department. How only some authorized personnel of HR department have access to personal data of employees. Implementing access control is one of the most common methods used by organizations to ensure the confidentiality of information. So just to understand, these are some important points that you may can just take a note, that what is the most common method used by organizations to ensure the confidentiality of information. Then access controls, if you talk about, there are two type of access controls here. The physical one that we see on maybe our in our daily lives, the lock on the doors. And if there is any lock on the safe, the cabinets, these are the physical access controls that you have, that you need some specific control to have access to that place. Then there are digital access controls as well. Then like there are internal network access control, like not everyone can control a particular network. some remote access control. Then there is the web access control. So these are the two types of access control that are important. So here we understood the confidentiality by this example, that how HR department must have access to personal data of the employees, like how only some authorized personnel should have that access. This every organization should follow, and most of the organizations follows that. That is where the confidentiality comes into the picture. I hope these three things are clear to you. We have discussed about the practices, uh, some methods, data policies that can be there. And we've discussed about the access controls. So I hope you understood the confidentiality part of it. Moving on to the next one, which is integrity. This also is taken from the ISO 27000, since we know ISO 27000 is about the requirement. So this is what is integrity actually? So integrity is basically, as mentioned here very rightfully, is a property of accuracy and completeness. How can an organization ensure that? So organization can ensure integrity of information by implementing several controls. What type of controls? So here maybe you can just note down a point that these controls are version control, access control, backup procedures, which aim to guarantee these three most information. Information, uh, three most points, which is that information is not modified when in storage or transit. Information is only modified when the changes are authorized by relevant functions. And the third one is data is accurate, consistent, reliable, and safe from unauthorized access. That is how the organizations can ensure the integrity of their information. So we discussed about the confidentiality, and we discussed about how organizations can ensure the confidentiality is there. We've understood it by an example of the HR department. And then we discussed about the integrity, how organizations can ensure the integrity. And similarly, here we have an example for you, which is related to the data processed and stored in the finance department should remain accurate and authentic, avoiding unauthorized access and modifications of such information. So, I hope you understand how much risk is involved when it is about data in the finance department. If there is any modification in the information available, then it can make a huge difference. And there are so many risks and threats about that particular data if it got modified. So there can be cases when data is changed unintentionally. So it is not always intentional that it happens. There are some situations where it happens unintentionally. There are three examples given here for your reference, which is storage erosion, natural or intentional errors happens sometimes, then the system damages. Sometimes the system just collapsed and the information sometimes modified itself, sometimes it is it just collapsed, so the department would not have access to it. So these are the cases when the data changed. So that is where a data integrity plays an important role. Data integrity controls are essential in operating systems, softwares, and applications to prevent the intentional or accidental corruption of data. So this is actually very common these days in organizations. They definitely use a lot of such tools to save their data and to protect their data basically. Integrity controls should include in the organization procedure so that personnel are aware of them. These procedures are useful in reducing the risk of data error, theft, or fraud. Data validation controls, user trainings, certain controls at the operational level. These are some good examples, like how you can keep the integrity control. So these are some examples that organizations must do and should do in order to protect their data, to integrate that. So we understood this by the real-time example of the finance department, and we also understood how it happens sometimes unintentionally. So it is not always there is some intentional threat of that, but system failures, natural errors, or anything as such can happen, which is a risk for the data for organizations. So that is where the integrity comes in picture. And the third part of it is availability. As we have discussed, it comes under the clause of 3.7 of ISO 27000. Availability is the property of being accessible and usable on demand by an authorized entity. So, property of being accessible and usable. What do we mean by that? Ensuring information availability means that information is accessible when required, wherever required, and to the authorized persons. So that is what we mean by availability. To ensure that the information is accessible when required, where required, as it required, and to the persons it is required. Of course, without saying that it should be the authorized persons. And to understand and to actually ensure the availability of information, organizations should do what? Basically, the organization should maintain and improve their infrastructure, such as server, disk, where information is stored. In addition, organizations should establish record retention policies also. So these are some examples, or these are some requirements that are there for data protection and information security. What organizations can do. So this is where it helps us being a risk manager. So where this is where we can give uh, consultation to the organization that what they can do. They can have some retention like retention policies, data backup, recovery procedure, and uh, in order to have that availability. So since we understand all two other factors with the help of example, this one is also in an interesting one. So this is about the marketing department. It says that only the authorized personnel of the marketing department must have access to customers' data, as as we have seen before as well, that how important it is to understand who all are the authorized personnel to have to give that access of customers data, because data is quite important these days and it is very sensitive. So if in any way it goes out, it creates a lot of risk. It is a threat to the organization. That is where these things comes. So here there are some three types of basically challenges are there which is faced by information security managers. What are these challenges? So, first is the denial of service, also known as DOS, as a result of intentional attack. When programmer is not aware of a defect that could harm the software due to a specific and unexpected input. So this is where the denial of service happens. Then the next type of challenge is there is the losing protection capacities of information system. So it happens mostly due to natural disaster or human activities as well, where the authorized personnel or maybe the information security managers loses the protection capacities of information system. And then the third one is the equipment failures. So this is also quite common. I mean, it happens if there is no information security protection tools are there, no standards are being used, then these are the challenges that can create a big problem in organizations. That is where the risk management comes into the picture. So this is about the confidentiality, the integrity, and the availability. I hope you understood these by the examples that were discussed. So for confidentiality, we have discussed the human resource example, how the confidential data should be, how to kept it confidential and from whom all it should be accessible. Then we have discussed the integrity. We've discussed it with the example of finance department, how the integrity of data matters. And at the third point, we have discussed the availability with the help of the marketing department. I hope you have taken a note of these important points for your reference, which will help you in upcoming maybe sessions, or if there is anything you want to refresh or anything. So till now, is it clear to you, or you have anything to discuss on this?
Yeah, it's clear.
All right, thank you. So we have completed these three main points of that, and moving on to the next one, we have some definitions that are important to understand. Maybe it sounds very like normal thing, but to understand it from a risk management perspective is very important for this course. So we are going to discuss the event. What is the event? So we have taken this from the our current standard, that is 27005 from class 3.1.11. What is an event? Event is basically any occurrence or change of a particular set of circumstances. You can just note it down for your reference, future reference. So note 1 to entry, note 2 to entry is mentioned here. If we just have a look into that, we can see an event can have one or more occurrence and can have several causes and several consequences, which says about note 1. And note 2 says that an event can also be something that is expected, which does not happen, or something that is not expected only. So, I'm sure you know so many examples of events which are not expected and it happens suddenly. That is also a type of event only, which comes to the note 2 to entry. And note 1 to entry, again, I'll read it for you, which is any an event that can happen one or more occurrence and have several causes or consequences, which we know already that it happens sometimes. Maybe, for example, once in a while, some system failures are there. So this is an event that happens that has some consequences whenever it happens. So that is how we can just mitigate the risk over that, that we know, okay, these are the events that occurs once in a while, and we need to have a risk management system for that. And uh, in addition to this, events can have different type of impacts. If we just have a look here, so what type of impacts is can it can have? It can have positive or negative impact. So, for example, a positive impact of any event is when there is a proper risk management system used in any organization. Then if there is any event occurs, then the system, if there is any negative event also occurs, then the system will protect it, because it is under the proper standards and things are with that, like there are data policies that we discussed previously. So that is the positive, but it can have negative impact as well. So we can understand it with the real life examples that happens and that we see in some our in our life usually. That are mentioned here, which are natural events like flooding, like weather changes, some accidents, diseases. So what are these? These are the events. Only in this ISO standard, what we have done is we have kind of differentiated in two note of event. One which have one or more occurrence, and it has several causes and consequences, and the other one which is not expected to happen, something that is not expected, and when that happens, that is the second point. So these are some important definitions that we are basically understanding that will help you for this course. First, we understood the event. Next comes the opportunity. So if we move forward, we'll see opportunity. In between, if you have anything to or discuss, or you want to add any of your point to make the session more interactive, I would be more than happy to discuss. So please feel free if you have anything to discuss. Then next, moving on, it is opportunity. This is taken from the IEC 31010 clause 3.2. What is opportunity? Opportunity is once when something is favorable in to the objective. Basically, it is a combination of circumstances expected to be favorable to objectives. There are different, you can see notes here for that. The first one says an opportunity is a positive situation, which again is likely and over which one has a fair level of control. Then, note two is opportunity to one party may pose a threat to another. So an opportunity to one party, like if there are two different parties and something is an opportunity for one party, can be the threat to another, may pose as a threat to another. And then taking or not taking an opportunity are both sources of risk. Sometimes we take the opportunity and sometimes we don't take the opportunity. But in both the situations, it is the source of risk. So while studying risk management, we have to think about all the perspectives, about all the situations. So this will be helpful in further readings. Then we read about events, we understood opportunities, and third thing that we are going to understand is consequence. Previously, we have actually read about consequences, that any event can have different consequences. So what is consequence? It is a very simple common term used. It is the outcome of an event affecting objectives. Affecting objectives. This is taken from ISO 27005. It has different entries as well. Note 1, if you see, note 1 to entries, certain and uncertain consequence. So there are some certain consequences. For example, if the data breach has happened from any system, for example, the human resource system or the finance system for that matter, so there are some certain consequences of that, that the risk needs to be mitigated, that there is threat to all the data, some certain consequences. It can have positive or negative, direct or indirect effects on objectives. Then it can be consequence can be qualitative or quantitative. What do you mean by qualitative and quantitative? So basically, it is not always can be quantified. Sometimes it is expressed in quality, like it changes the quality of the system. It cannot be identified in the quantity terms. And then there are consequences which can be expressed in quantity terms as well. Then we have note 3 entry, which basically, if you can see with the help of this chart, it is showing that how it escalates through cascading and cumulative effects. So this is the talks about the escalation. Uh, so just to reiterate, note 1 talks about the certainty and uncertainty of consequences. Note 2 talks about the qualitative and quantitative consequences. Note 3 says that it can escalate through different effects, cumulative effects, basically. So these are the consequences. And just to define it, what is consequence? It is an outcome of an event which affects the objectives. So we have understood events, we have understood opportunity. I hope you're taking a brief note on these points. And then we have understood consequences. Now the next thing is likelihood. These are some important definitions that is going to help us further. So likelihood. Likelihood is what? What do you understand? It's very simple as mentioned here. Likelihood is a chance of something to happen. Like what is the likelihood of a particular situation to happen? What is the likelihood of rain tomorrow? So this is what we mean by likelihood. As the example given here, according to our forecast, there is a 50% chance of rain tomorrow. So it means a chance of something happening. The chance of rain happening is 50% tomorrow. This definition is also taken from ISO 27005, clause 3.1.13. There are two entries to this. Note 1, note 1 to entry says in risk management terminology, the word likelihood is used to refer the chance of something defined, measured, or determined objectively or subjectively, qualitatively or quantitatively, like we've discussed for consequences previously. Similar to that, it can be qualitative or quantitative and described using general terms or mathematically. The next thing it talks about the English term likelihood. So the English term likelihood does not have a direct equivalent in some languages. Instead, the equivalent of the term probability is often used here. So, however, in English, probability is often like narrowly interpret in mathematical term. Similarly, in risk management, likelihood is the keyword that is used. So it is like parallelly work in English and mathematically probability is used in mathematical terms, and in risk management terms likelihood is used. So this is a point to be noted here, that what is the likelihood exactly means here. It can be qualitative, it can be quantitative, and it is basically a chance of something happening. Like, what is the probability of something to happen? So just for a recap, we understood events, we understood opportunity, we understood consequences, and then we just discussed likelihood. Do you have anything to discuss in this, whatever we have discussed in section 3 till now?
Is there gonna be any mathematical equations?
Yeah, so in our upcoming sessions, there are gonna be, but for now, we are just starting with the basics, with the definitions, so that when these terminologies will be used further, so you will have a idea that what does it exactly means. So it is not very too deeply, too mathematically, but yeah, it can have some formula, some equations.
Yeah, I know the formula for the likelihood.
Okay, great.
In the exam is gonna be
Yeah.
any questions that have mathematical.
Yeah, definitely. In
Oh,
our upcoming sessions, we are going to understand that better, deeply.
okay.
Yes. So these were the definitions. Next thing that we are going to discuss is the threat and vulnerability. Before that, I think we can take a 5 minutes break if you want. I'll also have just a glass of water, and then as it is quite clear, but is still as per the definition mentioned in ISO IEC 27005 in this clause of 3.1.9 and IEC 31010 in the clause 3.5. The particular definition that is given for a threat is any potential cause of an information security incident that can result in damage to a system or harm to an organization is a threat. So we can have a variety of examples of a threat. How any potential cause of any information security system can result in a damage or a harm to an organization. Like if we talk about the data, so the data breach that happens sometimes when the system failures are there. So these are the threats. Sometimes the cyber risk that is there. Cyber risk is also a threat. So there are two note here. Note one, which says that threat is a negative situation in which loss is likely and over which one has relatively little control. So when any threat is there, we basically use the risk management system. We try to just take some precautions. We try to, as we have discussed, that we try to make some policies around it, or there are different type of things, multi-factor authentication that is happened in order to mitigate the risk of threat, so that uh, the threat won't occur, that event does not occur only. But as mentioned here, threat is a negative situation in which loss is likely and over which one has relatively very little control. Then, if we see the next one entry, it says a threat to one party may pose an opportunity to another. So, if there is a threat to any particular organization or about their data, about their information security, then it can be an opportunity to another. The person, maybe the cyber crime that happens, the cyber criminal. It can be an opportunity to someone else, to the threat of one party. So these are the information about threat. Then it is explained in clause 3.1.12 of ISO 27005 about information security incident. So a single or a series of unwanted or unexpected information security events that have significant probability of compromising business operations and threatening information security. So this is the information security incidents. Whether it is a single incident or a series of some unexpected events related to information security. These are the uh, threats for any organization and its business operations or things. So this is what we understand by threat. Uh, Next to threat that we are going to understand is vulnerability. What do we understand by vulnerability in risk management system? In this approach, what is vulnerability? So as per clause 3.1.10, the definition that is clearly given is vulnerability is weakness of an asset or control that can be exploited so that an event with a negative consequence occurs. So, for example, if there is any asset or any process that is weak, that is not, with proper mm, like protection, or it does not have any risk mitigation policy, it does not have anything like that. So it is a weakness of that and it can be exploited. So, uh, mm, which just confirms us with the definition that is given here, that it is a weakness of an asset or control that can be exploited so that an event with negative consequence occurs. So when, if there is any weakness in the asset or in the process, uh, so if it exploits, then any negative consequence occurs. This is what is basically vulnerability about. If we go and read about the other information that's available. So sometimes what happens is, if you see the first para, it says that the assessment of vulnerabilities can be complicated by a common perception that weaknesses are always associated with negative characteristics. But vulnerabilities are not always negative, if we see. Though many vulnerabilities are negative characteristics, like information system where patches are not updated. But there are situations where vulnerabilities, if you see the second para, it has given an example also. So there are situations where it can be accepted for the sake of positive outcomes as well, with the risk that we take. So there is a very simple example given here, which is purchasing laptops instead of desktop computers can increase the chances of theft, but it also improves the employee's mobility. So this is where we can say that vulnerability are not always negative. There is a risk attached to it. If laptop is purchased instead of desktop computers. The risk is theft. That because it is small, it is compact, the risk is theft. But at the same time, it improves the mobility of the employees. So this is the positive outcome. The risk is associated with that, but for the sake of positive outcome, this type of vulnerability can be accepted. So it is not something that should be seen as a negative thing. As this example was given as per that clause. Next thing, we are going to discuss this risk, and then after information security risk. So risk, a very simple definition in form of a of like chart given here. If you see, risk is the effect of uncertainty on objectives in a very simple language. What is risk? It is the effect of uncertainty on objectives. So when there is any uncertainty on any objective, like we have seen some examples previously about related to the data, since we are talking mostly about the information security. So objective, for example, we take as a data. Data is our the final main objective here, and there is uncertainty on that, that it is not quietly protected, it is not authorized to the required personals. So the effect, what would be the effect of the on the data if it is not uh, like quietly protected? That is the risk. The uncertainty of that is risk, basically the effect of uncertainty on any object. This is how it is explained in clause 3.1.3. Then we have some entries for that. Note of risk. An effect is a deviation from the expected, positive or negative. So it can be positive and negative both. Uh, about objectives, objectives can have different aspects and categories, and it can be applied at different levels as well. So it is not only related to data, it can be different aspects as well. And uncertainty is the state, even partial, of deficiency of information related to understanding or knowledge of an event, its consequence or likelihood. So this is where the definitions that we have studied earlier are going to help us. We have studied the definition of event, consequence, likelihood. So it's going to help us now. Risk is usually expressed in terms of risk sources, potential events, their consequences, and their likelihood. So this is what we meant by risk in this. Also, we have,
Uh, can
yeah,
we stop here today?
yeah. Do you want to take a pause, or do you have anything to discuss, or you are just asking to stop it here?
Yeah, stop today. It's too much for one day.
I know. Actually, just I think only this risk is left for today. And I
Okay,
think we have 20 minutes left. So it's okay. We'll just discuss this risk for today, and then maybe we can have a little interaction, and then we can stop for today.
okay,
Is that okay? Okay. 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 So we'll just go through this risk, and then we can stop definitely. I know this might be a little too much for today, but yeah, thank you for just keep making me pause. So it's okay. So let's go through this, and then we can take a stop. So as per the definitions, risk is the mathematical expectations of a function of probability of events, which is said by Daniel Bernoulli. Maybe this will help you. There are some more like deep knowledge about it mentioned here, that how and when it was given, what in which books. So it was it was given by the mathematician Daniel Bernoulli. It was the first scientific definition of risk, actually, which was given in 1738 by mathematician Daniel Bernoulli in the book of Specimen Theory Novae de Mensura Sortis. So in simpler terms, if we say, it is average value of consequences of events weighed by their probability. So I hope now you can relate what we have read about the consequences, events, probability, likelihood. These things are going to come in action now. You are going to understand more about it. Here, if we just see a little example given, uh, this one example, if you see here, if one can play lottery A with a guaranteed win of $1,000, or lottery B with a chance to win $2,000 with 0.75 probability, or $100 with a 0.25 probability. Most people will choose lottery A because they dislike taking a risk. And we see there is more risk in lottery B. So, this decision is rational for a person who has major aversion to risk. As such, would the decision change if the amount of money to win in lottery A drops? Drops to $7,000, $700, 500, or $200. So this is an example, like what will people usually choose where there is less risk. So this is all related to risk. Maybe I'll not go too much deep into that, but yeah, we just discussed the little definition about risk. So I'll not fill you one with much more information today. I hope this much was enough for today. So I hope you've taken the proper notes, or maybe the important notes. I will definitely check with my team with what all notes I can provide you. And with that, I think we can wrap up the session today. In this particular section, there are only two main topics are left that we can discuss in next session. And from next session, maybe we can do some exercise and quiz as well. That I will let you know in next session only. For now, maybe if you have any doubts, if you want to discuss anything, and if you have anything to understand, like any questions, maybe we can discuss it now. I'll wrap it up here.
Now all clear. Thank you.
All right then. So since this is clear, mm, we can, okay, so we can do this in the next session. All right, so just a little recap what we did yesterday. We started with our objectives, like what are the objectives through this training, and then we like discussed the learning objectives. Then we also went through how it is going to be, like the approach we are going to follow. We are going to do some quizzes, exercises. Then we discussed about like we started with the main content, which is about the ISO related standards. We discussed about the ISO, what is ISO, the history of it, and then the related like the family of standards of 27,000. 27,001, 27,005, and 31,000 and 31,010 as well. So these are the notes here. I hope you have made like important keynotes for yourself. But I'm definitely going to share these notes with you as well. So these are the some important points what we have discussed regarding the family of standards, like what standard describes what, and there are some standards which only tells about the requirements. Then there are some standards which works as a general guides. Then there are some industry specific standards. So that is there. I am not going in detail so much since we have already discussed this. This is just like a little recap so that we can move forward today. Then we have also discussed the structures of ISO 27005. If you remember how what is the structure of that? Then we give the input, action, trigger happens, then the output comes, and then the guidance. So that is also one thing. Then we have discussed 31,000 ISO as well, and the structure of that. Then of course we moved ahead with the advantages and purpose of the risk management. And after that, after completing that, we went to the section 3, which is the fundamental concepts. So we in this section 3 we have almost discussed about the definitions that are going to help us further, such as confidentiality, integrity, and availability. That triangle we have discussed, and then we have discussed the definitions about event, opportunity, consequence, threat, vulnerability. And today, we are going to move forward with after the risk. So the last thing that we discussed yesterday was the risk, and we have discussed the definition of risk, how to define that, and of course the definition that was given by Daniel Bernoulli. And then we are supposed to move forward today with the differences between opportunities and risk. But before we move forward, I maybe to make it more interactive, we can just start with the quiz. So what I'll do is I will share this quiz with you. So I have a little quiz. Maybe you can help me with that and make the session more interactive. Let me just share this. Okay, so we have these questions. I will read that for you. Um, so this is actually quiz one. This is only related to the section two that we have completed, which is regarding the standards and regulatory frameworks. So we have discussed these standards yesterday: ISO 27000, 27001, 27002. So it is regarding those only. Just like a refresher for you. Maybe it will help you to understand and remember the important points, the keynotes. So it is for that. So maybe you can just help me with with what you think would be the uh, option for this.
20 B.
Okay. So the first question is which international standard provides information security controls and guidance on their implementation? So we have discussed 27,000, 27,001, and 27,002 as well. I have the notes open for you. Maybe for now we can just look here, and once you will have the access to these notes, so it will little easier for you as well. But okay, so it says which standard provides information security controls and guidance on their implementation. So we have seen 27,001, which was about the requirements, if you remember. Okay, it says
Yes.
about the requirements.
Requirement
So
and
definitely,
implementation.
sorry.
Requirement and implementation.
Yeah, requirements for establishing, implementing, maintaining, and constantly improving ISMS. So
Okay.
27,001 is about this. 27,000 is about it's like a general overview of information security systems, management systems. Then the third option is 27,002, which says it provides information security controls and guidelines on their implementation. So if we just see what was our question here.
So I should memorize them all. I thought just the three
Mhm.
we took, which is
Uh,
27,001 and 5 and
yeah.
3,000,
Yeah,
30,001.
yeah, but if you remember
I
when we
focus on
discussed the
those or
family,
all of them.
yeah, so when we discuss the family of standards, it is better
Yeah.
to just remember all of these by like one liner that what it actually means, what happens with the particular ISO. So you can just remember with the one line, like for 27,000, what like a general overview. How does it like what actually happens in this? So it's not like going very deep in all of the ISOs. It's just to have a general overview. So that will be helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So in this case, I'm sure when you will have these notes, it will be a little easier for you to just check. And when you do this for maybe a couple of times, you will have a like an understanding about it. So that is not an issue. So in this case, if you remember, I think we should go with 27,002 because it clearly says that it provides information security controls and guidance on their implementation. Okay,
Okay.
so here we should go with ISO IEC 27,002.
And two. Yeah.
Yeah, so we can move ahead, and the next question is, what does ISO IEC 27,005 provide? So we have discussed 27,005. This is the main ISO that we are going to
Yes.
focus as we
Guidelines.
discussed. Yeah, correct. So the options we have here is about one is about the requirements for information. Then we have the second option is guidelines for information security risk management. And then it is about like the third is requirements for an information security management system. So here, as you remember, 27,005 provides guidelines and not requirements. So you are correct here. We can go with this option. So these are just like an example, like what type of questions you can come across. So you are right here. We'll go with the guidelines option.
Yeah.
Okay, then moving on to the next one. Which of the following statement is not correct out of these three? So maybe you can just go through it. First one says risk management is a part of only some activities associated with an organization and rarely includes interaction with interested parties. Next one is risk management considers the external and internal context of the organization. And the third one says risk management is part of governance and leadership and is fundamental to how the organization is managed at all levels. So, what do you think? Which one is not correct out of these three?
A.
Yeah, yeah, correct. See, it is clearly visible that the it is not rarely includes interactions, as we have discussed yet yesterday, how the ISO is made, how it all includes all the stakeholders and other related parties. So definitely, A is the correct answer for this. That it is not only part of only some activities associated with an organization and rarely includes interaction with interested parties. It is not true. So you are correct here. Uh, if you have any doubt anywhere, you can just pause me and we can discuss, right?
Okay.
Okay, moving on to the next one. It says to What does input refer with regard to the structure of risk management activities in clauses 7, 10 of ISO IEC 27005? If you remember when we were discussing the structure of 27005 yesterday, we have discussed this part that there are 5 steps: input, then triggers, and things for their output, then these things. So it's just asking that what does input refer? Do you have, by any chance, do you have a note of that, or shall we go to the notes?
The input. I have the note for
Yeah.
the
Okay.
certain, uncertain,
Okay.
quantity, and qualitative.
Okay, okay, got it, got it. No problem. We have discussed this, the structure of risk management activities
Oh,
outlined in
this one,
classes
yeah.
7 to 10. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. So
I
the
have this
question is
one
regarding
also.
this. Okay, great. So yeah, it was just
The
asking that
structure.
what does this mean? What does the input mean here? So input, it just says input identifies any required information to perform the activity. So you can see 3 options there: any required information to perform the activity, guidance on performing the activity, or any information derived after performing the activity. So input means here
The
uh,
activity, yeah.
identifies any required information. So we can go with the answer A.
A.
Do you have any doubt on that?
No, no.
Okay, great. Moving on to the last question. To complete this refresher, is it says which of the following statements is correct. So there are 3 statements in front of you. Maybe you can go through each one and then we can discuss which one you believe is the correct.
Required to establish risk management program based on.
So organizations are required to establish a risk management program based on 27005 to comply with the requirements of 27001 when implementing an ISMS. Next is organizations are required to establish a risk management program based on ISO 31000 to comply with the requirements of ISO IEC 27001 when implementing an ISMS. And the last one is organizations seeking to get certified against ISO IEC 27001 are not required to establish their risk management program based on ISO 27005 or 31000. So, if you remember, we have discussed this, and I told you that this is an important point as well, where
Yeah.
it was mentioned that, see, it is mentioned here as well, the relation between these ISO. So here it says that organizations seeking certifications against 27001 are not required to establish risk management
Yeah.
programs.
So it's C, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, correct. So C is the correct option for this. This is only we can understand when we have gone through all the ISOs, maybe a couple of times, so that we will remember. So for this one, C is the correct answer because this is the note mentioned here. All right, we are done
Okay.
with these 5 questions. So I think we are good to go further. Maybe when you'll get the notes, you can just practice them once again. And then if you have any doubts that why we have selected any particular options, and we can discuss this in our further sessions, right?
Okay.
Okay, great. So now we can move ahead and start from where we have left yesterday. I'll try to finish this today so that I can share these notes with you, and then we can start with our next thing. So, the things that were left from yesterday is we've discussed risk. Now we are going to just compare the difference between risk and opportunities. So we have discussed the how we define opportunities, like what is the definition here of opportunities in risk management, and then we have discussed what is the definition of particularly risk in this risk management, like what do we understand by that in terms of the standards. So definitely risk here, if you can see, any unplanned and might have a negative impact or outcome as well that we have discussed. And similarly, for opportunities, is any unplanned and might have a positive impact or outcome. So risk can have a negative impact as well. If you see the to just understand it better, here the examples are also given. So for risk, the example is given about software, the beta software version. So the implementation of a beta software could damage the organization because it might not be compatible with other applications. So this is whenever there is in any organization some type of testing is going on and something new is going to be implemented, there are two things: risk and opportunity. Both are there. Risk can have a negative impact as well, like here, we are taking the example of a beta version of a software which will be implemented, which is going to be implemented. So it can have a negative impact. It means it can have a risk, and at the same time, there are opportunities as well. Like it can increase the productivity of the organization if the beta version worked properly. So this is how we differentiate, and we can just say that this is the difference between the opportunities and risk. Moving forward, there's a little note about it mentioned here as well, that risk is often associated with negative consequences, such as possibility of losses, injuries, and some other negative events. So, of course, if you're like, as we can understand the definition that we have read about the risk, how do we define risk? Is basis that it can have negative impacts as well. So, for these organizations, the purpose of risk management becomes to limit their exposure to risk. So, however, it says this perception is incomplete as risk can have both positive and negative consequences. Opportunities for organization to expand, improve, innovate are almost always accompanied by some form of risk. So, whenever there is risk, there is opportunities on the other hand. So, it is not always like there is only negative impact, it can have a positive impact as well. That is why we do the risk management, because if it only has a negative impact, then we won't just do it. We will just avoid it. But no, risk does not have only negative impact. It can have both positive and negative